got an egg hatching. I'm out for a little golden hour walk. It's perfect timing that this egg's hatching right now because today I want to talk about eggs. Let's talk about eggs. First of all, before I incubate anything, this update rolled out to everyone now. This is now available for everyone. You can see what Pokemon are hatching from an egg, or what Pokemon could potentially hatch from an egg before you incubate it. Now this is only going to apply to new eggs, so if you have older eggs, like this one, I have this one that I got on March 2nd, you can see it doesn't have the list. But new eggs will have this list of Pokemon that are potentially hatching from the egg, and they're divided into what are essentially rarity tiers. So 1 egg is the most common, 5 eggs is the rarest. It still doesn't tell you exactly the odds, but you can see here that Flower Crown Happiny is probably not happening. Haha, good one, right? It's so rare, it's in the highest rarity tier, and it's in there with 20 other Pokemon. So not only are these the rarest Pokemon, they're the rarest Pokemon.
Are you a vlogger?
Yeah, you got a trick for the vlog?
Alright, third try. We'll count that.
Where's your mic?
Yep.
What the hell? Go get the picture, guys, man. You be safe.
Alright, take it easy. The rarest Pokemon, Happiny, only even then has a 1 in 20 chance of hatching. So I've heard stories on the Sylph Road subreddit of people hatching 100 or more eggs with no Flower Crown Happiny, and then on top of that, the odds of getting the shiny are even worse. To which I say, what's the point? What's the point of Flower Crown Happiny? Anyway, I'm gonna incubate a 12K just because you know, it's half egg hatch distance, and I still don't have a Sandile. You can see it there, grayed out. Haha, let's get to walking. Okay, I don't know when I became the Chansey Whisperer, but I picked up a use an incense task. I honestly almost didn't do it. I was like, this is just a casual walk. Do I really want to use an incense? I did. I got another shiny Chansey. That's 4. 4 shiny Chansey for this event. How? 15 attack. Well, I don't want 15 attack Chansey. While I'm out here walking, since we're talking about eggs today, this is what I really wanted to focus on. This article was written by the owner of Bulba Garden, March 27th, like a week ago, a little over a week ago, and it got a lot of attention on the Sylph Road. And I've read through it. The title obviously is, it's time to face facts. Pokemon Go is full of loot boxes. So I want to talk about it. I mean, this is something that's been on my mind for a long time. You know, with the amount of times that I've tried to hatch shiny Riolu, and after every single one of those events, sworn that I would never buy incubators again to try to hatch a shiny Pokemon that's exclusive to eggs during an event, and then I keep doing it. It's it's something that I think about. I'm not going to read the entire article, but I will link to it in the description if you want to read through it in its entirety. But this is kind of in response to another article, a Kotaku article that says, or is titled, Pokemon Go's eggs aren't loot boxes, they're fun presents. And I'm just going to start by saying I disagree. I think they are definitely a form of a loot box. To kick it off, the term loot box has been used as a loose catch-all term for a variety of monetization mechanics, or an individual paying, either directly or indirectly, to receive a randomized item or set of items. Basically, in a lot of free-to-play games these days, you can buy a box, or you can buy a key for a box that you earn in-game and open it to get rewards, to get items, and it's always randomized. And the argument here is that in Pokemon Go, eggs are essentially the same thing. And again, I agree with that. However, there are some things in this article that I disagree with. Pokemon Go's variety of loot boxes. The author essentially argues that catching Pokemon is a form of loot box in this game because, well, you don't know what you're getting. I mean, there's a chance that you're going to catch the Pokemon and you don't know if it's going to be shiny, or you don't know what its IVs are going to be. Honestly, I feel like this one's a stretch. It's the way the game works. The argument is that you can get items from Pokestops, but also that you can buy them from the shop, which isn't necessary. So is it only a loot box if you're buying Pokeballs? I'm not sure. I just disagree. I don't think catching Pokemon is really a loot box. So let's just move ahead to hatching. Hatching eggs is the part that I agree is definitely a loot box, and something that I'm just not interested in doing in Pokemon Go anymore. Incubators are most easily obtained by purchasing them using real money, right? You can only hold 12 eggs at once. We know how this works. We all play Pokemon Go. I personally didn't have a problem with eggs in Pokemon Go until Niantic started locking Pokemon to eggs exclusively. Obviously, the biggest example of this for me is Shiny Riolu, right? It's a great shiny. It's a Pokemon that I've tried to hatch every time it's been available in increased odds from eggs during an event. And I've spent a lot of money on incubators trying to do that. It's been a while, all right, since I've spent money on incubators, but I did spend $100 on Rayquaza raids recently. So is that better? I don't know. When Pokemon Go first came out, eggs were useful. You didn't have any Pokemon in your Pokedex. You were limited to whatever spawned in whatever biome you lived in. And eggs were a good way to get Pokemon that you couldn't normally find in your local area. Say you don't live by water, where you're going to find your water types? Probably in eggs. So early on in the game, almost every egg hatch was exciting. There were a lot of Pokemon that we didn't have in our Pokedex. There was a good chance that we were going to get something new and useful out of eggs. We had just started, so we didn't have a lot of candy, so every egg hatch gave us a good amount of candy towards evolving a Pokemon. But as time went on, the longer I played the game, the more I found myself disappointed by egg hatches more than anything else, because it got to a point where I had most of the Pokemon in my Pokedex. I had evolved most of the Pokemon that I wanted to evolve, and there was just not really much incentive to hatch eggs anymore. And I think Niantic also realized that and saw that probably from their player data. People aren't hatching eggs as often because they have everything. They don't need to hatch these eggs. So what we end up seeing is Niantic starting to introduce egg-exclusive Pokemon. It started with the babies, the first Gen 2 Pokemon. The first new wave of Pokemon that was introduced to the game came only through eggs. And 6, 7, however many months it was after the game came out, it gave us a reason to start hatching those eggs again. And over time, we've really just seen that get worse and worse, I think. Especially as Pokemon are kind of trickled out now. We don't get big waves, we don't get huge drops of new Pokemon all at once. We see a few Pokemon here and there added to the game. We see Pokemon like the Alolan forms, introduced exclusively through gifts. And even more recently, we've seen Pokemon introduced through 12-kilometer eggs. Not only are the odds on those kind of terrible, right? Trubbish, Corphish, I'm sure you've all experienced that. They also take the longest to hatch, right? Which also incentivizes you or pushes you towards buying super incubators so you can get them hatched a little bit faster. Over time, we've seen eggs just become this more and more predatory mechanic in Pokemon Go that really does feed off of the same kind of dopamine hits as loot boxes. It is gambling. If you are buying incubators, you are paying for a chance to get something that you want, and the odds of that happening are typically very low. So it feels good in your brain when it happens, and it makes you want to do it more. This is the issue with loot boxes. This is the reason that there's so much regulation happening around loot boxes in games now, because that behavior is very dangerous, especially as children are playing these games. It's the same type of gratification, the same type of satisfaction that you feel when gambling. And that's a dangerous habit to instill in children. I mean, honestly, that's a dangerous habit to instill in adults too. So right now, right this second, I want you to take a minute and look at your egg hatching habits in Pokemon Go. Ask yourself right now, why are you hatching eggs? What do you want from it? What do you expect from it? How much are you spending on it? Take a good look at what you're doing. Now, the next question I want you to ask yourself is it worth it? What do you really want? What are you getting out of it? Why do you feel like you need to have every Pokemon in your Pokedex? Why do you feel like you need to have that specific shiny that you're looking for? And I'm not trying to shame anyone for shiny hunting. I mean, I do it. I spent $100 on Rayquaza. But I also want to remind you that, like, I make content around Pokemon Go. All right, that's my job. I spent $100 and got 2 shinies, but I also got a video out of it. The question I really want you to ask is, do I need it? Is it worth putting up with the predatory mechanics of egg hatching? I mean, I stopped. I've got my 1 egg hatching. I broke down and bought incubators a while ago. I'm not using them. I'm not using them on any of this. I'll probably end up using them the next time Riolu's featured in an event. 1 egg at a time. 1 egg at a time for me. Like I said, I don't have Sandile. You can see it there. It's blanked out. I've just decided that it's not important enough to keep spending money trying to get it. So to sum up this egg portion, yes, I absolutely think Pokemon Go's eggs are loot boxes. I don't think they're worth hatching anymore. I think it's become a terrible mechanic in the game. Personally, I'd like to see breeding introduced just so we have control over what we're hatching. You know, if you could breed Pokemon, if I could put Lucario and Ditto or whoever together and get an egg that I know is going to be Riolu, I would happily hatch nothing but Riolu until I get the shiny. But during an event where Riolu has a 5% chance out of hatching from an egg, on top of that, an even smaller chance of actually being shiny, I don't think it's worth it. I don't want to do that anymore. Now, to just continue with the article a little bit, the author also talks about Pokestops being a form of a loot box, and man, I feel like this is a reach. Right? The argument is that you don't know what you're gonna get from the Pokestop. I think it's a stretch. Look, every game has a method of gathering resources, whether it's, you know, farming items in Minecraft or opening chests, finding chests in dungeons in some RPG. I feel like Pokestops are just Pokemon Go's way of farming resources. The author argues that Niantic has made irregular encounters of Pokestops in the course of normal gameplay part of the gameplay loop itself. Basically saying, like, you can't control how many Pokestops you can get to, and that kind of makes it more like a loot box. The argument also says, as items like Pokeballs, incubators, etc. are required in order to engage with the main gameplay loop, your only option to play the game without collecting these loot boxes would be to pay for those items. The author tries to argue that you can't play the game without collecting items from Pokestops, which is true, but you can't play Minecraft without chopping trees or mining blocks or whatever, right? I think that's just how the game works. I don't know. This one doesn't hold up for me. Well, I'm home now. That ends my 6-kilometer walk. It's time to open my loot box. Let's see if I can finally get Sandile. After all that, were we really expecting anything out of this? All right, I'll put one more 12K in an incubator while the event is still... I'm 20 minutes past the end of the event. Now I'm stuck walking 12 kilometers. Again, with eggs, I'm over them, you know? I got nothing left to say about them. So to close things out here tonight, the final question is, what do we want? What do we as a community, what do we as players of Pokemon Go want? What is the solution that we want to see? For one, I don't want any more exclusive Pokemon locked behind eggs. I think it's one thing to put Pokemon like Sandile, Vullaby, Ponyard exclusively in 12-kilometer eggs, a Alolan Pokemon in 7-kilometer eggs. But again, you know, over time, we've seen, at least with the 7-kilometer eggs, we've seen those Pokemon become available in other ways. We've had them in the wild during events. We've had them in raids at times. And that's just kind of the way things go with Pokemon Go, right? We talked about this in a couple videos ago. Everything becomes more accessible eventually. And I think with 12-kilometer eggs, those Pokemon will be released in some other way. Eventually, Niantic just tries to make them exclusive at first to try to get people to engage with new features before making them more widely accessible and moving on to something else being the new thing that they're trying to push you to engage with. I think it would also be helpful to have actual odds. I mean, if we're making the argument that eggs are a loot box odds do need to be disclosed in a lot of regions, right? That's like, there's laws for that at this point. And, you know, when you find out that something like Happiny is hatching at such a low rate, when that's like a promoted feature of the event, it's supposed to be, you know, in the announcement, it says, if you're lucky, you might hatch a shiny Happiny with a flower crown. And then you find out that the odds of that happening are astronomically low. Really bad. It just becomes deceptive, right? When they're promoting something and then you find out later on through a third-party source that the odds of that actually happening are like in the range of 1 in 1,000 getting the shiny Flower Crown Happiny. Probably even less than that. You know, there's a part of me that feels like, as a content creator, we're partially responsible here. That we've created this, or perpetuated this impossible standard of IVs in Pokemon Go, or shiny expectations in Pokemon Go. You know, in the same way that social media has kind of perpetuated this impossible beauty standard with Photoshop and stuff. Like, is me making videos about trying to hatch shiny Riolu encouraging people to do the same thing? Probably. But what is Pokemon Go if not a shiny collecting game? Right? I feel like I need a disclaimer. Like, when I buy Pokecoins, it's a tax write-off. This is my work. That's a business expense. You're gonna see a lot of us on YouTube hatching a lot of eggs or doing a lot of raids. But I don't want people to feel like they need to keep up with us. We have to make content. That's our job. And sometimes spending $100 on raids makes for good content. Just wanted to add that in there. I don't know. Am I responsible? So let me know down in the comments. Drop a comment. What would you like to see from Niantic moving forward with eggs specifically? Do you have a problem with the way that eggs work now? What solutions would you like to see? And again, let me remind you, you get to decide what's important in your life. So I want you to take a second, again, and think about why you've spent so much money trying to hatch that shiny Riolu. Nicholas. That's right, I'm talking to myself. If there's something that you're searching for in Pokemon Go, or in life, just take a second to think about why you really want it. And how important it is in the long run. Riolu. I guess at this point it's for the content, right? Oh man. Alright, let me know in the comments how you feel, and I'll see you in the next video.